Why do we INFJs sometimes feel so misunderstood? Stick around for today's show to find out. Aside from overcoming the challenging feelings of being unappreciated, or at least feeling unappreciated, it's important to answer this question because it can help us to do a better job of leveraging our gifts, of appreciating what other people bring to the table, and then of moving on from that feeling of needing to win other people's approval. So let's take a look at several reasons why we often feel so misunderstood. Perhaps the best known, the most well known reason why you might feel misunderstood is because the INFJ personality is a rare one, at least based on statistical data and surveys that we have available through the Myers Briggs type indicator and the organization that works with that assessment. So if you look at gender breakdowns in particular, the male INFJ is the rarest and the female is among the rarest. But as a personality type, in general, the INFJ is the rarest. So you'd think just by looking at the population at large that there aren't very many of us. And if you're an INFJ, you're probably not going to run into as many other INFJs. Interestingly, though, if you're looking for INFJs and you are out on the internet and you know who to look for and what characteristics to look for, you'll run into more and more of them, as I've been surprised to find out. So that can actually be quite encouraging. But again, there aren't very many of us. And then the fact that we're intuitives, which make up about, roughly 27% of the population versus sensors, which comprise about 73% of the population, can make you feel left out as well, because most people are tuned in to the world and what they can take away concretely of their senses. What do they see, smell, taste, touch, and hear? And they tend to trust it just for what it is rather than looking for deeper understanding. Now, there's a part of their personality that desires that as well, but first and foremost, that's what they do, versus us who like to look deeper, look for meaning, seek out the patterns, so on and so forth. So just the different approach and the number of people based on sheer statistical volume is one reason why people like us can end up feeling misunderstood. Another contributing factor is our differences in gifts. So let's start by taking a look at our INFJ gifts. We're naturally disposed to seeing different perspectives. In fact, if you are a reader or a learner, as most INFJs are, you probably really enjoy hearing and learning about a variety of different perspectives. My favorite books are the ones where an author takes a look at a problem from a bunch of different angles and then comes away with a solution. It gives you time to see the big picture and find the pattern and to see the links between all the pieces. That's something we INFJs do with our introverted intuition. We take all the puzzle pieces and we put it together in our subconscious, and it's amazingly fun to do and just so natural for us because it's how we're wired. It's our number one mindset or cognitive function. So we have a gift of doing this that most people don't do, or at least don't do in this way. And it's our natural propensity to want to understand how other people see the world. When we get to know others, we're thinking, I wonder what makes them do what they do. At least a lot of INFJs on some level want to find out what makes other people tick. I can't help it. Just being around coworkers or family or friends, I've become somewhat of a social scientist or psychologist because I just love understanding what causes them to do what they do, what motivates them. So it's more natural for me to see and appreciate where they're coming from because I want to find out what's motivating them and getting them to like a certain singer or to enjoy a certain way of doing life, like whether it's habit or whether they need variety or whether they like to explore, they need security or safety. I just want to find out how those things work. And then I think as feelers too, we want to empathize with others and appreciate where they're coming from so we can see their perspective, and then we want to promote harmony and validate their way of doing life. So it's just natural for us to come at it that way. All that to say that it's intrinsically motivating and natural for us to want to find out what motivates others to some extent, and then to want to relate to them to help them to build a positive relationship. So we tend to, like all people, think that our way of doing life is the best. It's just kind of how we're wired. Even though we see different perspectives, sometimes we forget that other people approach life in a different way. And I mention that because we have blind spots too. We have difficulty with details, with chores, with the monotonous routines and habits that just keep us alive. And we tend to dislike that sort of thing because it's not inspiring and it's not an opportunity to learn or necessarily help people in a way that's enjoyable. But other personality types who are good at that also have a blind spot of seeing other people's perspectives. I think of ISTJs, for example. If they don't really work at it, they tend to think that everybody sees the world the way they do and is stupid if, and I say that with all respect because again, we have blind spots too, but that other people are silly if they don't approach life the way that they do, just because that happens to be their blind spot. So you'll see that we have almost opposite blind spots. While we have difficulty with chores, they have difficulty seeing perspectives. So I bring all that up to say that it can be challenging for a lot of other personality types to think of the world in a different way, particularly for sensors. They have a hard time stepping into someone else's shoes. Now, if they're a feeler, they have a leg up on that because they want to empathize and see where we're coming from. But in particular, if they're a sensing thinker, it can be difficult to take another person's perspective because that doesn't help them interact with the real tangible world and then to make logical and personal decisions. So you'll find that usually NF types are really good at empathizing and maybe seeing where you're coming from and appreciating it, whereas SD types may have more of a challenge with that. So this is reality. This is who we are. Things aren't going to change. How do we deal with it? And how do we maintain a positive attitude? Because if I'm honest with myself, it's so easy to start having a pity party and feeling sorry for myself, but that doesn't help me and that doesn't help anyone else. So I can't take that perspective. So how do we move on from it? How do we live in this practical world and make the most of who we are? I offer you the following suggestions. And the first is to appreciate your gifts. You have some great abilities that you bring to the world. A little earlier, I talked about the perspectives and the ability to empathize with others. You can naturally intuit what is driving other people, what they're dealing with. You pick up on cues that a lot of people keep hidden. And as a result, you're able to connect with people on a deep level and really help them through some difficult challenges. Plus, you can understand life and what makes it work on a deeper level than a lot of other people. Now, again, that doesn't make you better, but that's a super gift. And that's something that this world definitely needs. So appreciate that. Appreciate your ability to be a counselor and a confidant, or to be a great writer or a great creator of whatever you enjoy making. Those are just a few of the gifts that you have. But do a little exploratory work and find out what is unique about you, and then hone that gift and use it to help others, which will really bring you to life. And by celebrating what you can do instead of ruminating on what it is you wish you had, the understanding and affirmation of others, it'll really help you to enjoy this world quite a bit more. Another suggestion for you is to appreciate the gifts of others. You know, when you're feeling misunderstood or when you're tempted to feel sorry for yourself because others don't get you, it can be really helpful to stop and think about what others do bring to the table. Personally, I don't want to be an accountant, or I don't really want to work in construction all the time. I don't want to be a police officer. I don't want to be a cook. Those sort of things are draining. I don't mind spending a little bit of time doing those, but if I had to do them all the time, it'd be really frustrating and vexing. So I'm really thankful that there are people in this world who enjoy doing those sorts of things and who do them well, because they contribute to society and meet a lot of needs that are real and practical. So I found by taking the gifts that often make me feel frustrated, the gifts that other people bring to the table, and keep them from seeing my perspective, and choosing instead to be thankful for what those people are able to contribute to society, it helps me to have a more positive attitude. And then I also try to remember that I have a blind spot too, that those things are a challenge for me. So I'm glad that others can step in and fill that need. So when you're feeling tempted, I commend this exercise to you. Instead of thinking about how they can't see your perspective, think about what they're doing that's really good for you and good for society that needs to be done. Two more quick suggestions that I'll just combine. And the first is to help other people understand themselves better, and then in turn understand you better. Now, this might not always work because not everybody's interested in this, but if you haven't done so already, you might encourage the people who know you best, the relationships that are close to you, to go and take a free personality test. Or you can even do a little bit of the research for them and try to figure out what their personality type is, and then help them see what unique gifts they bring to the world and how they contribute. Because a lot of people think that everyone is like them, and we tend as people to take for granted what comes so easily to us, but what is really a special gift. So help someone else understand what makes them unique and special. And most of us like to learn more about ourselves. And then once they find out that there's this person, these people that understand and study others and what makes them tick, and they start to understand themselves differently and see themselves reflected in the description of this person they don't even know and who doesn't know them from Adam, they might perk up and be more interested in learning about how other people do life. And then there's an open door for you to explain what makes you unique and different. So that can be a great way for the other person to learn about himself or herself, and then for you to talk to that person about what makes you unique. I just give you one word of caution based on experience. Be careful about going into it all together at once. Don't expect it to happen instantly. It's a process that takes time. And also, it can be really helpful when you give concrete examples. So when you're working with sensors in particular, if you can give specific actionable ways that their gifts play out in the real world, or that understanding what makes you different than him or her, then they'll be more interested in listening. And then I've found if you can give examples of people who are the personality types, that really helps them capture what makes the people unique. And then give a couple examples of a certain personality type, they'll start to make connections. Oh, this type of person acts like this, and this is what they bring to the table. For instance, with my wife, I can give her a couple examples of an ENTJ type, so they understand how this type of person is really good at coming up with a vision and then getting a bunch of people behind it and making changes in the world. And they start to make, my wife will start to make connections between those types of people. So if this is helpful to you, go for it for sure. And then finally, if this isn't an option for you, or even if it is, one great thing to do is to connect with people who do understand you. And I mentioned a little bit earlier that NF types are naturally inclined to understand different perspectives and to see where we're coming from. So if you can relate with other INFJs, that's great. You can connect with ENFPs or INFPs, or even ENFJs are great too. So just find someone who is an NF, and they're going to understand you a lot better than most other personality types. Now, not exactly, unless they're an INFJ, where they're going to be able to almost put themselves in your mind to a certain extent, and that's dependent on their life experiences, of course. But other NF types can be great for relating to, and you'll appreciate the different tweaks on perspective that they bring to the table too. If you'd like to learn more about yourself and what makes your personality type unique, then I'd love to give you a free, no strings attached copy of my book, The INFJ Personality Guide. In the book, you'll learn about the mindsets or cognitive functions that motivate you and cause you to do what you do. You'll also learn about some common INFJ challenges and solutions to those challenges. And then finally, I wrote the book to help you understand that you're not messed up or broken, but that you're just different, and that the world needs you and the gifts that you bring to it. So you can get this book one of two ways. The first is that you can text the letters INFJ to the number 444999, or you can visit ispeakpeople.com/INFJ-personality-guide, and you can find that link in the description below this video. Well, I'm so glad that you watched this video today. Thank you for watching. It was a pleasure spending time with you. I hope that it served you. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, I'd encourage you to do that. I'm creating new videos each week with tips and insights into your personality for INFJs just like you. So I hope that you'll consider subscribing. And if you are a subscriber, thanks again for watching. Always enjoy spending time with you, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.